terrifically rich day, and I want to tell you it's just going to get richer now because decisions in our constitutional system are made on two sides of Pennsylvania Avenue. One is the president, and the other one is Congress. And right now we're going to get an important view from Capitol Hill. Senator Britt from Alabama. Now, a bit before I talk about Senator Britt, I want to talk about Alabama. Whether you are in Washington or Beijing or Tehran, you can't help but notice that so much of America's leading edge in military matters comes out of Alabama. And I just want to give you one case in point. Those American and Israeli interceptors that downed all those Iranian missiles and drones during the recent Mideast war and did so successfully, every single one of them was made in Huntsville, Alabama, Israeli and American. That tells you about technological prowess, tells you about utter craftsmanship. And the same thing's going to be true about American hypersonics. And the same thing is going to be true about the Army's next generation command and control system, which is going to supply the entire joint force and direct fires in the Indo-Pacific. Now, as for Senator Britt, her actually advocacy and her leadership and work for national defense really goes back at least a decade before she entered Congress. She has been deeply involved in helping make Huntsville and Mobile those centers of excellence for U.S. defense production and technological advancement. And I want to tell you that knowing something about her, her commitments just don't come from a fact of state economic configuration and profile. It's deeply personal. She grew up around Fort Rucker, which is now Fort Novasil, and she understands something which we would like all of our leaders to understand, which at the end of the day, national defense comes down to those wonderful young men and women that man the front lines and deserve the best equipment. So I think that explains a lot of her drive as an appropriator, as someone that's a leader in the Doge Caucus in the Senate, and someone who's a major Senate voice on border security. So with that, please join me in welcoming the great senator from the great state of Alabama, Britt.
Well, good afternoon. It is certainly a privilege to be with all of you today. Thank you, Jeb, for that great introduction. And thank you to all of you for letting me be a part of this incredible event. One of my top priorities as a United States Senator is ensuring that our U.S. military is the most lethal force in the world, and that our warfighters are properly equipped, trained, and resourced. We have to make sure that they're ready. I grew up, as Jeb mentioned, in Enterprise, Alabama, right outside the gates of Fort Novasil, which many of you may know as Fort Rucker. It's the proud home of the Army Aviation Center of Excellence. From an early age, given that close proximity, I was able to see the sacrifices made by our servicemen and women. And it became really clear to me early on that those sacrifices were not just theirs, but they were that of their entire family. I watched as friends sent parents off for months on end, some of them never having the opportunity to return home. I know that the American dream would not be possible without the courageous men and women of our armed forces and their families. So from the bottom of my heart to all of you who have been or are involved in our armed forces, thank you for what you have done, and thank you for making our nation so great. I also understand just how important national security is to Alabama. and as I like to say, how important Alabama is to national security. As you consider the state of Alabama, we have several national high-level crown jewels supporting the warfighter across all of the services. Shipbuilding on the coast of Mobile, supporting the Navy and Coast Guard. The Army Aviation Center of Excellence at Fort Novosel, which ensures that Army pilots receive the best training the world has to offer. The Troy Missile Facility, where we produce anti-tank and air-to-surface and hyper-altitude missiles, and soon to be a hypersonic missile facility. The Anniston Army Depot, which is the designated center of industrial and technological excellence for repairs, maintenance, and overhauls of Army combat vehicles. Maxwell Air Force Base, which is actually where I call home now, right outside those gates, which is home to the Air War College and Air University. And Huntsville, as you just heard, which is the home to Redstone Arsenal. I understand that there are some officials here today from Huntsville in attendance. As they will be quick to tell you, Huntsville is a very special place with thousands of defense and space contractors supporting every need of the warfighter across the globe. Whether it's hypersonics, directed energy, quantum computing, or national security space launch, Huntsville literally has it all. Redstone is a major center where Army weapons systems are developed, tested, and managed, where the Army works on missile defense, space capabilities, and aviation research. And it's where the Defense Intelligence Agency's Missile and Space Intelligence Center conducts the assessments that provide our forces with the technical advantages that they need to keep our citizens and our allies safe. And it's where our military tests the hardware and software our soldiers rely on the field. And when Huntsville hardware does see combat, it makes an immediate impact. Many of the interceptors used successfully in the past year, specifically to stop Iran missiles from hitting Israel, were made in the great state of Alabama. All of this to say that American national security has been top of mind and close to my heart for a long time. And not only for what I see now, but as I mentioned from my childhood, whether it was seeing a parent in uniform at a school play or actually being there on base as people returned home. All of these things have made sure of that. But as everyone here today already knows, the present moment is quite different from anything in my lifetime, and any moment in the lifetimes of the people in this building. For almost a decade, national security experts in the military and at think tanks and academia have recognized the unique period in which we find ourselves. We have pushed for the United States government to thoroughly embrace a new posture that actually meets the challenges of our time. Not since the height of the Cold War has it been so necessary for the US to reckon fully with the meaning of a great power conflict. Not since the dismantling of the Berlin Wall and the dissolution of the Soviet Union has the US faced such a serious, significant external threat. And never in our history have we considered an adversary as capable as the People's Republic of China. For years, the United States forgot the lessons of the 20th century. We forgot that international institutions are a means to an end, not an end in themselves. We forgot the importance of defense production as a means to ensure peace through strength. And we forgot Ronald Reagan's lesson that in order to trust, we must first verify. While we sought to welcome China into the community of nations, its Communist Party expanded its influence in the Indo-Pacific and around the globe, expanding the capabilities of its armed forces, engaging in economic coercion against American allies and partners, and constructing militarily used resources and training in the islands in the South China Sea. We did not ask for a new Cold War, but a new Cold War is exactly what we've got. And right now, to be frank, I'm concerned that we are not prepared. The PRC is operating as if it is currently at war. And bottom line, we are not keeping up. It is building and acquiring munitions, weapons, equipment at 5 to 6 times the rate that we are. China has become the world's largest shipbuilder, to the point that its capacity is roughly 232 times greater than ours. Incredibly, just one large Chinese shipyard has greater capacity than all of ours combined. I mean, just think about that for a minute. There can be no doubt that Xi Jinping has expansionary aims. There can be no doubt that the PRC seeks to supplant the United States as the world's superpower. And there can be no doubt that we are not ready for the generational struggle ahead of us. We are not building enough weapon systems. We do not have an efficient enough production and acquisition process, and our government bureaucracies are not equipped to enter this new geopolitical era. In fact, those bureaucracies are often hindering our ability to create real deterrence against the PRC's goals. The question then is, what do we do? As everyone in this room understands, with the change in administration has come a change of attitude. President Trump has committed to ensuring our warfighters are the best trained, equipped, and resourced across the globe. But innovation can't simply be a buzzword or a nice platitude we say to one another while we repeat the same mistakes that we've made over the past few decades. To be clear, I'm not pointing the finger at any of you here in this room. A lot of this stems from bureaucratic red tape at the five-sided building, or palace if you may, right outside of DC. But if I am being honest, even more of it falls on Congress. With our endless CRs, our last-minute omnibuses, we have made it almost impossible to make sure that that goal of being the best trained, equipped, and ready across the planet can actually come to fruition. As a member of the Senate Appropriations Committee, I have worked tirelessly to help get us back to regular order. I've done the homework and in many times had to educate others on where we've been so that hopefully we don't go down that path again. Some of you may be surprised to find out, and others probably already know this number by heart, but the last time that we actually passed these appropriations bills on time was FY 97. Think about that. And the last time we actually did them individually on time, which is true regular order, was FY 95. That is 30 years. 30 years of kicking the can down the road, 30 years of halting bidding contracts, 30 years of you not knowing what you need to spend, and 30 years of putting us behind. Congress hasn't made it easy on anyone in this room, but efficiency is the first step towards producing what we need to prepare for the protracted great power conflict. We must remove bureaucratic restrictions on procurement, on testing, and on manufacturing. We must shift more responsibility towards the PEOs rather than administrative workers. And we must build more transparency into all of the Pentagon's processes. Through our industrial capacity, it is not what it should be, but I am confident that through these types of things that we have the ability to produce munitions, weapon systems, and equipment at a much higher level than we are doing right now. We must eliminate the gap between the supply chain and the kill chain. I know that this was a topic of discussion here earlier today, and it is arguably the most important change we have to make if we are going to take the challenges we face seriously. There is no reason why we shouldn't be able to immediately replenish the weapons that we use in battle. Back in October, when American destroyers shot down Iranian missiles headed towards Israel, we did not immediately replace ours. And why? The answer is because our defense production has nearly no relationship with our forces in the field. That needs to change. It must change. And that change must come quickly. The technology that could bridge the gap between our deployed forces and our manufacturing exists, and the Department of Defense needs to actually utilize it. There's no reason for the Pentagon to use outdated Excel spreadsheets when programs that can access the entire supply chain already exist. And Alabama is exactly the right place for us to take that implementation, take those technologies, so that we can ensure that our military is more efficient and more effective. President Trump's Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, has stated that he intends to reshape the Pentagon, returning to the Department of Defense's focus for our lethal forces to make sure that that is what we're focused on, lethality, and providing a credible deterrent against our adversaries. Eliminating needless bureaucracy, cutting red tape, and looking at anything that prevents us from building what we need. Combined with modernizing technology that the Pentagon needs to use, this will allow us to restore peace through strength. And truly, this could not come at a better time. The world is more dangerous than it has been in generations. The challenges of great power competition is a world historical one. I know everybody in this room understands what the consequences of our failure to meet this moment would be. Lucky for us, this is also a golden opportunity to modernize our military and bring much needed efficiency to our armed forces. We have a president and a Secretary of Defense who are committed to doing just that. And we have majorities in both the House and the Senate who are with them. Over the next few years, we're going to work hand in hand to enact the changes necessary to deter our adversaries and to build production capabilities and to restore a doctrine of peace through strength. I want to thank you for what you do. For those of you who have served or are family members of service members, we appreciate all that you do, all that you sacrificed, and what that means for the nation. For those of you who continue to work to make sure that our warfighter is safe and secure and our country is strong, we say thank you for the work that you do. So I think at the end of the day, we have to come together. We have to look at what's actually in front of us. We have to move obstacles out of the way. We have to be bold. It is imperative that we must rise to the challenge posed by the People's Republic of China. We must, and with your dedication and your selflessness, I have every confidence that we will. Thank you, and God bless. Thanks, guys.